Week 1 of college football is here, and we're here to bring you some marquee matchups. One of the biggest ones of the week played on Sunday, coming to you live from Las Vegas. I'm Nathan Johnston here with my co-host Brad Hopkins, along with our special guest picker of the week, local real estate mogul and current UGA student, Mr. Ross Whitworth. Ross, good to see you, man.
My pleasure.
Absolutely. Brad, as I mentioned, big game going on in Las Vegas this weekend, Sunday night in the city of Las Vegas. The number 23 USC Trojans hit the road along with the number 13 LSU Tigers playing Allegiant Field in Las Vegas, Nevada. 7:30 kickoff on Sunday, as I mentioned, on ABC/ESPN Plus. I guess you could say, Brad, all cards and chips on the table for this game. Primetime matchup. Eyes will be glued to the TV. We know the departure of Caleb Williams. Can Lincoln Riley replicate what he's done year after year with his quarterbacks? New quarterback under helm, saw a flash of him in the bowl game this past December, along with LSU breaking in a new quarterback. We know that Daniels leaves for the NFL draft, gets drafted second overall. 1-2 quarterbacks, actually, coincidentally, back-to-back in the draft, and now the two teams are playing each other in the bright lights of Vegas. Brad, thoughts on this game and who comes out on top? 4.5 point spread favoring LSU. I guess the back forgot to put that up there too. But Brad, I'll turn over to you. What are your thoughts on this game and who comes out with the big win in Vegas?
Yeah, absolutely. This is, over the past few years, this Sunday night game to open college football has been one of my favorite games. And I believe this is maybe the third or fourth straight year LSU has played on the Sunday night opener. Of course, they played Florida State, New Orleans, Florida State, Orlando, and of course this game. So these games on opening weekend of college football are always a lot of fun. You mentioned Caleb Williams going to 1 overall. I was just reading something earlier today. It's crazy to think about Lincoln Riley. He's had 3 Heisman Trophy winners at the quarterback position. 3 guys go number 1 overall at the position, and he's never won a college football playoff game. Take that as you will. Maybe the most overrated coach in America. I think it's a fair question. Look, I'm not a Lincoln Riley hater. He runs a fun offense. I think there's some questions about his culture that he instilled at Oklahoma, his culture at USC. But hey, that's left for everyone to decide. Getting to this game, I want to start with USC. Of course, Nate, you mentioned new starting quarterback Miller Moss. He looked really, really good in the bowl game last year. He surprised. USC is going to put up points. They're going to be explosive on offense. Their big feature guy is speedster Zachariah Branch, and I think this guy is going to have a breakout season. And I say breakout season, he had a great season last year, but I think he's going to really, really put up some big-time numbers. I want to focus on the defense because, Nate, me and you, in our off-season episode, we kind of talked about this revamped USC defensive staff. Of course, D'Antonin Lynn comes over from UCLA. North Dakota State coach Matt Entz comes to be the USC linebacker coach. I will say Lincoln Riley has never cared about defense. I don't even know that he even steps in the defensive meeting rooms, in the offseason during the week. But I will say I think he's tried to address it. I think he's realized that, hey, I can still have an explosive offense, but I've got to do a little bit on the defensive side to try to get some college football playoff wins. And with the expanded 12-team playoffs, USC is a good chance to get in the playoffs. So I will say I think he's done a good job addressing getting a better defensive staff and getting some guys in here. And looking at their roster, of course, their big feature defensive player is former Georgia transfer defensive tackle Bear Alexander. He's a good player. And I will say this, and this is not a shot at him, but there's been some rumors he's a good player when he wants to be. He's known that he can take some plays off and that he can, not go 100% all the time. So they need him to be pedaled to the metal, every snap that he's in there. I say all that to say USC has addressed some needs. They've addressed some defensive coaching staff, but bottom line, I still think you're going to see some improvement on defense. It's not going to be an SEC defense. I wouldn't even say it's going to be a good Big 12 defense. I still think they're going to give up yards. I still think they're going to give up points, and that leads to transition to LSU. You mentioned breaking in new quarterback Garrett Nussmier. I've been impressed with this kid. Of course, a couple years ago, he came in for injured quarterback Jaden Daniels in the SEC championship game that they lost to Georgia. But look, he really, really had some good moments. They returned tight end Mason Taylor. He's a really, really good tight end. And the next great LSU receiver is Kyron Lacey. So there's still a lot of playmakers on the offensive side of the football. I think Nussmier is going to have a good year. And then, Nate, we've talked about, once again, LSU getting some new guys on the defensive side of football. I'm really excited to see what they do under Blake Baker. He's coming over from Missouri. Your guy, Bo Davis, coaching that LSU defensive line. Nate, I know you're a huge fan of him. I am too. I think he's going to do a really, really good job. My big question mark is, what do they do with Harold Perkins? They've got to find ways just to put him in a position to go get the quarterback, but he's also a really, really good defender. So my prediction for this game, I'm taking the Bayou Bengals. I think LSU is going to be explosive. I think LSU is going to put it on them. I mean, I think they're going to win by at least 14 points. I just think USC is going to give up too many plays, and I think LSU scores at least 35. And I'm taking the Tigers big Sunday night in Las Vegas.
Wow. Big prediction right out of the gate, Brad, for Sunday night. And look, you made a lot of great points. It's offense versus defense in this game, and I don't want to get too far into my pick, but Ross, what are your thoughts on this game and who comes out on top in Vegas?
Well, like Brad said, the two offenses are going to be put on full display here. Whatever the over is, hammer it. 75 points, take it. It's going to be an absolute shootout. And the USC defense, they're about as good as a box of rocks. They can't stop anybody. They can't – they just let everybody straight through. But last year, LSU's defense couldn't be saying too much better – couldn't say too much better stuff about them either. But I think this game – the players, I think the offenses are about even. It's all coming. I pretty much think that the whole game is going to come down to which defense is able to make 2 or 3 stops in big moments. And LSU's got players. They've got 4 stars. They've got the 5 stars. Take over a game. Harold Perkins back there, freshman linebacker, and he just absolutely wreaked havoc his freshman year. And he is somebody on defense that can absolutely change the game. And I just don't think USC has anybody like that on their side of the ball, because he can play off the ball. He can play on the line. He can get after the quarterback. And USC, while Brad mentioned Bear Alexander, he's a defensive tackle. You can double team him and take him out of the game. And, I think Nussmier, Lacey, Taylor, LSU's offense is going to have an absolute lethal passing attack. And, it all comes down to which defense is going to be able to make some stops. And I just don't think USC Trojans are going to be able to make any stops at all in that backfield. So I'm going to go LSU big. It may be close at halftime, but as the game wears on, LSU's depth on the defensive side of the ball is going to end up showing. While it may not be great depth, it's at least more than what USC is going to have back there. So I'd probably go LSU by at least 2 touchdowns, maybe even 20 points.
Wow. Ross, Brad, big heat coming towards the USC Trojans. All right, let me continue the roast. Listen, Lincoln Riley doesn't know the defense from his left foot, and him learning the defense is like Stevie Wonder running the 100-meter hurdle, okay? It's not going to end well. This USC defense has bolstered itself with the addition of Matt Entz, one of our best videos of the offseason, Brad, as you know. A lot of people big on this guy. A lot of people think that, hey, maybe Lincoln Riley heading to the NFL after this year, if he doesn't come out with a 9-10 win playoffs run season, he could be off to the NFL very, very quickly, and maybe that's more of his style. When it comes to college football, especially transitioning to the Big Ten, playing an SEC school, what's ironic is he did not want to stay at Oklahoma. He did not want to play in the SEC. Well, here's a taste of your own medicine, Lincoln. Merry Christmas. You start out the year against an LSU Tiger team who's ready to prove themselves on defense. You mentioned the addition of defensive coaches and Blake Baker and Bo Davis, Brad. 2 key pickups. Bo Davis being our second biggest offseason video defensive line coach that was legitimately the reason why the Texas defensive line was so good We saw how he coached those players. We saw how he turned that defensive culture around. And those are the type of guys that LSU needs to bolster that defense. When we think of LSU, you think of strong secondary, strong defensive line, and you think of really big guys up front. And the spread is 4.5. Maybe neutral sighting plays a part in it. I don't know. We know that, USC coming in off of its 7-5 season, lackluster. We saw the team kind of get in. Caleb Williams kind of let off his foot off the brake towards the end as well. But when you look at this team heading into the 2024 season, you got to think that they're better on defense. You got to think that Moss will be a better quarterback. But in the end, give me the LSU Tigers. I just think they're going to be too strong. Look, Brian Kelly, he entered the SEC because he wants to win national championships. If he didn't want to win national championships, I don't think he would have moved to the Bayou to be with the LSU Tigers. I think they come in this game. I think maybe USC's offense comes up with a splash play in the beginning, but as the game progresses, I think this is a no-brainer. The LSU Tigers take over in the second half, and they spank USC like an absolute baboon. Give me the LSU Tigers. To y'all's point, I think they covered this. I think this is a 10 to 14 point game in the end, but we shall see. Sunday night prime time in Vegas should be a great 10 SEC matchup. We'll see you next week. Be sure to subscribe down below, like this video, and comment who you believe will win this marquee matchup in Vegas. And be sure to check out our new partnership with SquadBlitz.com, a new college football fantasy app dedicated to college football lovers who are so sick and tired of the way NFL fantasy is set up. And again, as I mentioned in previous videos, if you're tired of your starting quarterback getting injured, look no further than SquadBlitz.com. They've got you covered. It's the whole roster per team, per position. We'll see you next week. It's time to break the huddle.